everyone. Welcome back to ADEX Pixel Expo 8 monthly webinar global webcast, the August series. And this event happens every 8th of the month, so please do stay tuned for the next one. Also, we are convened together today to over a united cause, that is our love for diving and also the ocean. So, with regards to celebrating the National Day, birthday of Singapore tomorrow, which is its 56th birthday. So we would like to, invite everyone to be the first 56 to like or share this post or even comment. And then you get to stand a chance to receive a free Asian Diver e-magazine Scuba 101, the essential guide to Southeast Asia collector's edition. So for this session, we have, of course, interesting and, you'll be up for looking into beautiful visual sites of underwater photography. And we are talking about diving in Philippines, and we're focusing on Anilao and also Puerto Galera. So with me today, we have, of course, Ram Yoro, a professional underwater photographer and also a writer. And he is based currently in Anilao and is a proponent of Bonfire diving, a tool for documenting plankton. As member of the Filipino cave divers and also field tech divers, he actively documents Philippine underwater cave systems and wrecks. Together with Andrew Marriott, Ram also co-authored the Guide to Anilao and also an upcoming Philippine wreck book. So Ram, welcome to ADEX. How about Wave?
Hi, Nora. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay, right after Ram's session, of course, let me just introduce the next speaker in line. He is none other than Mike Bartik, a professional underwater. I think everybody knows about that. He is a widely published award-winning photographer, writer, and international public speaker with work appearing monthly in various publications and aquariums and also museums. Originally from Southern California, he has an insatiable love for finding unique marine life and also telling the stories through photo and videos. Mike is a widely published award-winning photographer, writer, and international public speaker with works appearing monthly in various publications, aquariums, and also museums. He hosts photo clinics, workshops, and also seminars. Crystal Blue Resort. So,
yes.
If you want to,
I should have just did the truncated version of that, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Good morning.
If you want to sign up with Mike, just do that. I just mentioned it. Okay, anyway, I'm going to hand over this session to Ram. And Ram, over to you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nora. Let me just share my screen. Okay. There you go. Can you guys see that? All right. Okay. So, although our topic for today is about Anilao and Puerto Galera, I'll be focusing more on Anilao because that's where my base of operations is. I have more exposure to the Anilao side than Puerto Galera side. But guys, keep in mind that Anilao and Galera are basically share the same water, so the flavor of diving there is more or less the same. Talk about Anilao, it's kind of tricky because Anilao is known for its diversity, and there's just so many topics to cover about Anilao. So what I try to prepare is I try to do is I try to give you guys a sneak peek of each of the interesting facets about diving in Anilao. So I'll start with the location. Much to the credit of Anilao's diversity is actually because of its location. If you can see the map there, right where the star is, that's where Anilao is. Anilao is just that small dot, but when we say Anilao today, diving in Anilao, we actually pertain to the 50 different sites that cover that those dotted lines in the map. So that's more than 60 kilometers of 60 square kilometers area. 50 plus dive sites is Andrew and I did the book, it was around exactly 50. And right after we published the book, sites kept adding and adding. Mike is one of the guys who's really active in discovering new sites in Anilao. So today I won't be surprised if it's like more than 50. It's more than 60 already. Now, going back to what I was saying, no, the peninsula, one here, no, it's basically the geographic feature is mountainous. So think of this the peninsula like a big mountain. So that's notable because whenever it rains, no, the nutrients from the mountains, and it's very lush, no, trees and all that, no, they all run off to in good amounts to the coastal areas. No? So that kind of like feeds off the coastal areas, and it's one of the main reasons why the reefs there are healthy. Now, the thing about Anilao geographically also, it's only 2 hours from Manila, so it's an advantage because people can just do day trips there. So you have a lot of it gets a lot of exposure from divers and underwater photographers, meaning it gets explored more than other dive locations now, and that's good. There's a new highway currently being built. If that is completed and if it opens, they say it will cut down the travel to by 30 minutes. So it will even be shorter. Another big advantage of the location of Anilao is that it is right along or adjacent to the Verde Island passage. So I think most of us are familiar with the Verde Island passage and the Coral Triangle. Let me just give a big overview to those who are not yet. So the Verde Island passage, according to several studies over the past decade already, it has been confirmed to be the center of marine biodiversity in the world. So they say the center of marine biodiversity, meaning the highest volume of diversity, is the Coral Triangle. Most of the coral species and other fish species originate or can be found in this area. And just imagine the VIP, Verde Island Passage, is the apex of it all. So it's a great advantage to Puerto Galera and to Anilao that they share those waters with those very rich waters of the Verde Island Passage. As a result, you have lush coral reefs in Anilao. You have like a lot of hard coral, expansive hard coral areas, like that one to the left of the screen. And you have soft coral dive sites also. So to your own choosing. For underwater photographers, you can play around a lot with it. You can do close focus wide angle photography. You can do busy reef scenes and many more. If this was just a talk about wide angle Anilao, I can go on for about 60 minutes or even more. So there's great wide angle photography in Anilao. And I say that again because today when people mention Anilao, only macro comes to mind. And I think, and I'm sure Mike will agree to this, wide angle is very underrated in Anilao. Now, Mac and Anilao, because of the rich waters around it, from the mountains and from the Verde Island Passage, basically the rich waters support a lot of macro critter life. So it is in fact considered the mac diving or the macro capital in the Philippines, and arguably it is like about around amongst the top 3 best mac dive sites in the world. You get a big assortment of critters there, from big fish, quote unquote, like this hairy frogfish, to smaller critters like this blue ring octopus, and you can even do super macro with the hairy shrimps or lembei sea dragon. No, not anymore lembei sea dragon because this is in Anilao, so just sea dragon. So I was talking to one photographer visiting from another country before, and he said like he was amazed. Like in one mock dive, he just had to stay in an area as big as a parking lot, and he almost spent 2 hours shooting different critters in that tiny area. So that's how diverse the macro diving is in Anilao. Another thing about marine life in Anilao, it is known to host some of the holy grails of underwater photography. I'm not very updated anymore, but the Rhinopias, for instance, here you see a species with two different colors. It used to be the holy grail of underwater photography. So
Hi,
I was trying
Ram.
to. Hey, yes,
I'm sorry to cut in like this. Do you
no
mind
problem.
if we restart your presentation, your PowerPoint presentation, because
Oh,
it's
sorry.
currently not moving.
Okay. Is it stuck or wait?
We are still viewing it as a PowerPoint, and it's not in
Ah,
presentation mode.
wait. Let me
There you go.
see.
Yeah.
Is it there? Is it up?
No,
Is
not
it
yet.
back?
I can
No.
see the slide.
Yeah.
Wait, let me. How about this? Did you
No,
see it?
perhaps you can exit the screen and try to come in again. Share the screen
Okay,
again.
okay. Share screen again. Okay.
Yep.
Stop sharing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you try to
And
share screen again.
and then share the screen again.
Yep.
Um,
Okay, put it on presentation mode, play.
are you
There
guys
you
see it
go.
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
right angle.
Is it moving? Oh, where
Yes.
did I guys lose you?
You're on the start slide.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah,
I
it was
lost you.
actually.
Okay, because we're in a limited time, I just jump
No
to
worries,
where
you
I
can just
was.
start whatever you are going at. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Verde Island passage I was talking about a while ago. Let's just wait for the wide angle. Some photos of wide angle photography in Anilao. There you have some macro critters. Okay, and I was just talking about some of the holy grails of underwater photography. So like this one here, you have the rhinop. There are several different kinds of rhinopias, and if I'm not mistaken, there are at least three. Mike can correct me with this. No? Three species in Anilao. So this is one, no? The Rhinopias frondosa. They come in different colors. So you see one here in red and another one in purple. There's blue, there's yellow, and white, and many more. No? There's another kind of Rhinopias, the Rhinopias eschmeyeri, well sought after also. It's less ornate than the frondosa, but just as beautiful. They come in solid colors as well, like purple, red, orange, and this one is like pinkish flesh or brown. Yeah. So I was trying to recount last night the number of sites where there have been reported sightings of this. It has been regular occurrence for the last 6 years, I would say, across 6 different dive sites in Anilao. And here's the holy grail for, probably used to be the holy grail for nudie branches, the Alenai nudie branch. And you can also see this in Anilao in at least like 4 different dive sites, perhaps even more, but at least in 4 dive sites with good hit rate. Talking about nudie branches, nudie branch are plenty in Anilao. In fact, it is like informally dubbed as the nudie branch capital of the world. They number in the hundreds of species, if not thousands. So the abundance of corals, hydroids, sponges, algae in Anilao provide enough food for these guys. On a side note, these guys are also known to be carnivorous, so they also eat each other. And the best time to see them is during the cool months. They prefer cooler waters. Cool months in the Philippines is around from December to early March. Okay. Another thing about Anilao is that it is a hotspot for blackwater and bonfire diving. Thanks to a good friend Mike here, who's been very active in like doing this and sharing this that activity to others. And also just a shout out to Gatsi Tuason, who started doing the activity in Anilao also. So anyway, blackwater and bonfire diving, to those who are not familiar, it's basically a chance to see in the water column, mid-water column at night, planktonic critters. So when I say planktonic, these guys are like, could be larval stuff that float in mid-water. Like, for instance, this larval wonderpuss. Here's a larval lionfish and larval mantis shrimp. And you also get to see like adult planktonic critters like this deep sea Abralia squid. You have the this blanket octopus. Particular shot I actually shot with Mike Bartik way back, and then that's a sea butterfly. Okay. An interesting thing about Blackwater and bonfire diving is also it has so much behavior activity to shoot. In the midwater column, it's a harsh environment. They tend to like they're in hunting or feeding mode, so they're all killing each other. But they also at the same time get very creative in surviving that world. No? So there's a lot of commensal behavior at the same time. So here, like a jackfish taking advantage of, pairing with a jellyfish, to get protection from its through its stinging gels. And here's an amphipod riding on what they call this larval anemone to hide its like imprint or wave movement in the water from predators. And here's a what they call this female paper nautilus riding on a jellyfish. To move on, another underrated feature of diving in Anilao, I would say, even more than wide angle, reef wide angle, is its wrecks. The wrecks probably the last thing that comes to mind when you say Anilao, but it has some interesting wrecks as well. No? For one, it has a helicopter wreck, not known to many divers, even those who frequent Anilao. It's a Bell 206 chopper that was placed there sometime in December 2002 by a group, DiveNet. I don't think they exist anymore. The objective was to turn it into an artificial reef. So they removed the engine and the oil and everything and just dropped the hull. No? Now it's still pretty much intact. The rotor is already gone. The tail is there but collapsed, but the body is still pretty much intact, and you can like make out the feature of the helicopter. This is at only 26 meters. I say only because most other wrecks, the big ones, are really deep. No? So this is relatively shallow, quote unquote, for an interesting wreck site. No? Of course, this is very popular in Anilao, Dari Laot. It used to be a floating barge, no? That also doubles up as a hotel, and the remains of the wreck is mostly skeletal nowadays. But what's interesting about this wreck is the story behind it. No, I won't drag you with the story anymore. But to give you a brief, no, it started out as like a drug courier ship in Thailand. It was bought by a group of enterprising people and brought it to Anilao, and it was high-end, high-class, posh floating hotel with speedboats. You can actually see some of the speedboats and jet skis in Anilao. No? And the only access to the ship, because remember, way back in the 60s, 70s, the road wasn't, there wasn't a proper road going to Anilao yet. No? So to get to this wreck site, which is floating in Anilao waters, no, is via a seaplane. Another interesting wreck, perhaps the biggest, no, is this fish trawler in San Luis. It's technically not in Anilao. The town is San Luis, but it is very, very accessible from Anilao. From the Anilao town, it's around 20 minutes to get there only. And it's around at 80 feet. And, still mostly you can make out the features of the trawler. No? You have the king post, you have the decks, you have some remnants of the gears for holding the nets, and so on and so forth. An interesting wreck to visit for sure. No? I don't have a good photo of this wreck, in fact, no, but good thing my friend Jun Lau, who runs paparazzi.com, please do visit his page. No? He was kind enough to let me use it for this presentation. There are also a host of tiny interesting wrecks just scattered all over the bay, in Anilao. No? You have submerged mini bars. You even have an office. It's not here in the lineup, no, but there's also like a version of this mini bar with the office setup, the computers, phones, and tables. You have a lot of speedboat hulls. I was trying to count the speedboat hulls. I actually know of in Anilao last night, and I just stopped counting at 5. No, there's even more. There are a couple of jet ski wrecks also, motorcycle wrecks as well, but because they're more fragile now, the motorcycles, they last only for about a year or two before they get totally dilapidated. This one used to be a pickup truck, okay, but only the front hull remains. And another one here is a jeepney wreck. No? This was also taken by my friend Junlao. No? It was there for about a year or two, but because the body of the jeepney is quite fragile also, and with the several typhoons we've had the past years, now it's more or less dilapidated also today. And you have several toilets. I don't know why toilets, but you have a lot of those in Anilao. And here's one with a with a cubicle. In fact, no, I can't imagine where this came from. All I can think, I presume, is it came from one of those yachts, no, and the yacht probably was already out of decommissioned, and it took out this toilet with its body, and then they sunk it. No, but in other parts of in other reefs in Anilao, you see just the toilet bowl. In my place in my base in Anilao alone, there are around 4 toilet bowls already scattered. Man-made installations in Anilao to make your photography, interesting. Also, you have a Buddha statue. There are a couple of, not here in the lineup, but you have at least 2 mermaid statues that I'm aware of. You have 3 crosses, okay, and famous favorite site of open water graduation dives, and then a couple of religious statues. Here's one of the Virgin Mary, and then lastly, you also, for the more adventurous, you have a cave, very good what do you call this, cave in Anilao. So only for those qualified, with cave training, technical divers. It's about this one, the Mapating Cave. It's at the entrance is about at 45 meters. And sometime back, my good friend Alex Santos thoroughly explored it. It actually goes down to about 66 meters before it ends, and you go up. I was, during the pandemic, I was following some posts in Facebook, and there were a couple of sightings of huge marble rays by the entrance here in Mapating. So it's good to see those photos or video clips again, because when Alex was telling me about Mapating, when he explored it in the 90s, there were actually regular sightings of those marble rays and egg casings of sharks here hanging by the entrance. But in the 2000, by the turn of the millennium, there were no more. And because during the pandemic, probably because nobody was visiting this place, they came back. So it's a good sign. And you have a couple of caverns also along Anilao. So for those not familiar, the difference between caves and caverns. So the cave, you enter, and at some point you will lose the advantage or the benefit of light. In caverns, you also have an entrance, but even to the deepest portion of the cavern, you will have a light zone. So whenever light is not visible, that's a cave. When you have access to light, it's a cavern. So here's, for example, a cavern swim through in a popular one in right by Dive and Trek Resort. So people call this, interestingly, the Bat Cave. I don't know why Bat Cave, but it's a cool name, so I won't dispute that. There you go. So that's pretty much Anilao. Because of its geography and accessibility from Manila, and because it's adjacent to the Verde Island Passage, and it has like a mountainous area that continuously feeds off nutrients from the mountains. You have lush wide-angle reefs. You have a plethora of macro critter options, and you have the specialty dives, like interesting wrecks from big to small. You have caves and caverns, and you have also the newest fad like Blackwater and Bonfire diving. So I hope that pretty much gave you like a bigger an overview of how diverse diving in Anilao is, no. And sometimes it's what do you call this? It's not disappointing, but I think it's a misconception that Anilao is all about macro diving. But here, as you've seen, there's more to it in Anilao. So when travel is back, please come visit and check all these different kinds of dives to make your trip more interesting and enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed that one. Back to you, Nora.
Thank you so much, Rem. Beautiful sharing indeed. Thank you. Okay, our next panelist, Mike, over to you anytime.
Thanks, Ram. Nice work.
Thanks, buddy.
Can you guys see this okay? Okay, so yeah, Philippines, a very exceptional place to dive, and in particular, Anilao, one of the best places that I've found to dive so far. And today we're going to be discussing further more about the Anilao area, which is right here at the end of that peninsula. And it, Anilao, like Ram alluded to, shares the same basic body of water as Puerto Galera, which is on the other side of the Verde Island Pass. And the Verde Island Pass has been designated as one of the hotspots on the planet for biodiversity, and that's in fact what brought me there in the first place. But what really got me was to keep coming back there was the people. I really love the people of the area, and it's as colorful topside as it is underwater. The whole area is really a mecca for divers now. And when I first started traveling to the Philippines, and in particular Anilao, it wasn't that greatly known, and it was more known amongst the local divers of the Philippines as a place to learn how to dive, and of course for the nudibranchs, and as what Ram was talking about, people think about Anilao now, and they think strictly about critters, but the truth of the matter is there's so much to see, including the reefs, which are just stunning to me. I've been all over the planet, and I can tell you firsthand that the reefs are just thriving. I mean, here's a really good example, just a snapshot of a reef, and you can see how lush and how much the real estate is just occupied. Every inch, every square inch is just occupied by life, and there's just so much to see there. So I came up with this phrase, wow, Anilao. And, I say that all the time underwater when I'm looking at something. I'm like, wow, I've been to, like, Papua New Guinea, for instance, was thought to be one of the real hotspot meccas for wide angle photography. But I'm telling you, in Anilao, there's areas like this. And in fact, in Puerto Galera, there's also some very beautiful wide angle areas, in particular Verde Island. And at the other end of the Verde Island Pass, we have Sombrero Island, and that whole complex with Beatrice and areas like that. And it's just so beautiful underwater that, it's really hard to capture the beauty in a single image. One thing that's nice also is that the local area has several MPAs, which really proves how effective they are at helping the overflow of marine life. Not being able to fish in these areas really helps support the marine life and keep not only tourism, but the marine life there very, very healthy and active.
Sorry to stop you there, Mike. Are you showing your screen? We are still not seeing your screen here.
You're not seeing my screen either?
No. Need you to share screen?
Let me see. Where are we at here? Okay, it's 4 o'clock in the morning here, so.
Sorry. Yeah.
You guys seeing it now?
Yes, click on to play.
Yep.
And there you go.
Let me go back a few frames. Talking about how lush the wide angle reefs are in the Philippines. And, you want to talk about an explosion and an abundance of life and colorful marine life. It's just really overwhelming at times. And, like I was saying, it's very hard to capture the beauty in just a single frame of how lush this area is, and again, a lot of people just think of Anilao as a mecca for macro, But in fact, it's not only perfect for learning how to shoot macro, but also for capturing really compelling wide-angle imagery. Was talking about MPAs, lots of things to see. What brought me to the Philippines, actually, Anilao in the first place, was the nudibranchs. And I was working in a different place in Indonesia, and a friend of mine had referred me. He said, if you like it here, you should check out Anilao. And I didn't really believe him at the time until I went to Anilao for the first time and was just like blown away. So our peninsula is actually very small in relative size compared to a lot of other locations on the planet. And if you look at the size of our peninsula and the amount of nudibranch species that have not only been discovered there, but the area supports, the numbers are well over 1,000, and that is really overwhelming. That's been documented by the California Academy of Sciences. This is an Alani nudibranch, which is, of course, one of the iconic subjects to find in Anilao, sitting on eggs, and just all kinds of different guys. This slug actually eats other nudibranchs, as Bram was saying. A lot of these guys are carnivorous. Limonandra bernasi. So, I mean, if you're the kind of person that loves slugs like I was in the beginning, I really loved and still do nudibranchs. That's what brought me there to start with. But what I discovered was just so much more. And over the years, I kind of describe diving Anilao like peeling an onion. There's just so many layers and so much different diversity to find there that years and years of diving. I do about 400 dives a year there, maybe more. And I'm telling you, there's rarely a day where I go in and don't see something new or experience something that I've never experienced before, which you could almost say is true about diving in general, which is really what compels us to dive even more. One thing I really like about Anilao is the ability to slow down and really take your time and learn how to shoot really, really great critter photos. So, part of what I do is not only to document the animal life, but to do it in a way that's different and it's punchy. So, I try to document images that show not only behavior or a unique animal, but I try to capture them in a unique way. So I really concentrate on that aspect of making a photo beautiful through using the tools of my camera. And I spend a lot of time trying to teach people how to do that and how to make the most out of bringing these subjects out. So, one thing about critters is that they really closely match their habitat. So for instance, a subject like this one, which is a Ambon scorpionfish, they look exactly like the algae that they live in. So in some locations where you might be rushed from one dive site to the next, here in Anilao, the guides are really specialized in underwater photography, taking their time and helping you to capture these images. So yeah, being able to slow down, take your time, and really work the subjects. We have all of the top subjects that you would want to find as a macro shooter. Rhinoplasts, hairy frogfish, all the different nudibranchs. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Of course, a wide variety of seahorses, which I find to be sinister, but I'll leave that to a different talk. Batavia batfish, I would say, the one of the main differences in Anilao over Puerto Galera is, and not to say one is better than the other, but I would say that the guides that we have in Anilao really make a difference because we have all local guides and they really know the waters. They've grown up there. They know the waters better than anybody else. And they really take their time and learn not only the subjects and behaviors, but where everything is at. So Puerto Galera, they have a lot of different styles of dives, mostly drift diving and things like that. Although they have found out that there's a lot of great marine life there, and I think they're changing the style of the guides. But that's one of the things that really, really makes Anilao stand out over other locations is the guiding, and that really helps people like myself and other people from all over the globe come in and take advantage of the marine life. And that is what really compelled me to set up my operation for doing workshops there is the guiding and the marine life and the ability to really slow down and to teach people not only how to shoot photos, but about the marine life itself and what makes Anilao so special. So, it's not just the critters, but why they're there that makes it so interesting. And the other side of that is just, that there's these biodiversity studies every year that happen in this area, and they're continuously finding new marine life. So one of the things that interests me is capturing animal behavior like this guy, lizardfish eating a damselfish, eating another smaller fish. So it's what I call a 3-in-1. It's a very popular coffee drink. You got parasites on gobies, on whip corals, just beautiful clownfish, kind of anemones and different things. Blue ribbon eels, of course, but what we have discovered recently is, and I say recently, I mean, this is going back probably 2016, 2017, is the Blackwater experience there. And prior to that, it's really funny, Ram coined the phrase bonfire, which is great. But at the same time, Ram was doing that, I was also doing the same things. And we were messaging each other back and forth frequently. Hey, what did you see last night? Hey, what is this guy? What is that guy? And what we started to discover was this huge, like, hidden world just off the reef systems. And, it's pretty well known for a long time that the night dives there are off the charts. But when you swim off the reef into the open ocean, it's just like a whole nother layer, a whole nother universe. And prior to this, Blackwater diving was really only renowned from a certain couple of areas in the globe. And, a lot of people were very skeptical in the beginning of what we would find. And I think we turned the whole globe as far as Blackwater diving goes on its ear. So good job, Ram, on that one. But what a remarkable place for Blackwater. This is another iconic subject, which is of course the larval wonderpuss, diamond squids. So a lot of these subjects can be found globally, but for some reason in our bay, these subjects come in to feed at night and they follow this trail of plankton. And one of these things that we've discovered really is the population that we have of these wonderful Nautilus, which is the paper Nautilus. These guys are actually just a pelagic octopus. The female builds a shell. And, that's what really caught people's attention. And larval oarfish, these things have just added to the already crazy amount of subjects that we have there. So, it's really put Anilao on the map again. First, we had the crazy amounts of nudibranchs people were crazy about. Then it went into all these great different critters, the variety of critters like the Rhinoplasts and hairy frogfish, all these other. But now we have these other residents that we didn't even know about. I mean, the blanket octopus and all these other things. I mean, really, really amazing. I have a short video. Hopefully this is coming through okay. You see a lot of this kind of commensalism. Squid behavior. Soapfish. Now the larval fish are much more beautiful than the adults I've found. Weird symbiotic behaviors. Pufferfish and jacks. Blackfish. This is actually a type of blending. Lionfish feeding vertically in the water column. A lot of these small planktons will host other subjects, like fish. Will find shelter in them. Even the larval Nautilus. Box jellies. Comb jellies, very beautiful. This is a Venus sea girdle. Of course, our wonderpuss. Naked octopus, the new holy grail. So as you can see, you know, the Anilao, Philippines is just a remarkable place to dive and to really experience, you know, the underwater marine life that it has there is really, it's just amazing. You know, blackwater diving is really the ultimate in photography for me because of the challenges that it poses in shooting in open water. But you know, as you can see from both of our presentations so far, that Anilao really has not only beautiful wide-angle reefs and wrecks, but also just amazing diversity as far as the marine life on the substrate, in addition to the blackwater diving. And but for me, what really makes it special is our local dive guides. And you know, hopefully soon enough we'll all be able to travel worldwide again and get back to the Philippines and enjoy Anilao and the Verde Island Pass and really you know, get back to doing what we all love. So with that, I thank you guys. That's all I have, and it's been a pleasure. I hope everybody enjoyed the talk. Let me see if I can.
Awesome, Mike.
Thank you so much, Mike. Like what you say, like just quoting from Looney Tunes. That's all, folks. I love. I mean, like the video is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. It's
Yeah, thank you.
like why go to Mars when you have something so out of the world?
Yeah.
You know, underwater.
I totally agree. And you know, the ocean has so much mystery to it. And you know, what's nice is you know, it's right there at our fingertips. We can see it. We can be a part of it. And you know, why leave the planet when we have this other world right here, right off our shore, so close, you know?
Yeah, so true. Thank you. And
Thank you.
okay, I would like to introduce our next panelist. He is, of course, Marty Snyderman, and he is an Emmy Award-winning cinematographer, professional underwater photographer, still photographer, author, and also an environmental speaker. Mati is actually honored with the 2018 Nogi Award in the Arts by the Underwater Academy of Arts and Sciences, an Emmy Award for Cinematography, a Reaching Out Award in 2008 as a photographer, presented by DIMA, and the California Scuba Service Award in 2020. Marty Snyderman is a widely published still photographer and also an author who has worked to conserve and share the magic of the undersea world for more than 4 decades. Here's a note from Marty.
Hi, everybody. Marty Snyderman here. I am going to share my screen and go ahead and get started. And I'll start by saying thank you to John and everybody in the 8X gang for having me here today and for all the 8X programs. I just think they're great for the diving industry and for the diving world. So thank you so much. Today, I'm going to talk to you about diving in and getting the most out of your diving in Puerto Galera in the Philippines. When we typically see, the diving community, when we see images from the Philippines, we often see these pictures of kind of these bizarre, great looking animals, but just bizarre, unusual, like ornate ghost pipefish, devil scorpion fish, maybe the iconic pygmy seahorse, animals that you may not see or won't see in other parts of the world. It's not just fishes. There's invertebrates like this bug-eyed squat lobster. And my goodness, the Philippines are just a place for nudibranchs galore. It's just unbelievable. The number of species that you can see, whether individually or mating. There's so much that goes on. But there's a tendency, I think, for people to think of the Philippines and Puerto Galera as kind of one place. And it's one of the main points that I'd like to make today is that Puerto Galera is not just one ecosystem. The variety of diving is wonderful. These are photographs from Verde Island, which is about a 1-hour boat ride, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the sea conditions. Much more typical of a Indo-Pacific tropical reef with vertical walls, lots of color, lots of colorful fishes. Whereas the diving around the resorts, the 45 or so dive sites that we have right around the resorts, there's often more diving in mucky areas and in low-lying reefs and rubble. So the point I want to make again is different ecosystems of a real variety. And in those different ecosystems, you'll see a different group of animals. So typically, in most or many, I will say, diving areas of the world, you anchor or tie off a boat, you jump into the water, you swim as hard as you can to get to the closest reef. We do things differently. And we tie off in relatively shallow water in most, not every dive site, but in most of the dive sites, and you get in over seagrass beds. And instead of swimming to get away from them, you want to start looking as soon as you get in the water. This photograph of a blenny with eggs was taken in about 4 feet of water on a mooring line. And it's just, hopefully these photographs will just share with you the importance of having a little bit of a different philosophy about diving. These mating crabs, it's the first picture I took on one of my trips in Puerto Galera. Dropped into the water, and at about 8 feet of water, these crabs were mating. So the point is, you want to get in the water, try to kind of have yourself together as a diver and go slow from the start. This is a seagrass wrasse up in the seagrass. It's often a little bit churned up. The water can be a little bit surgy and there's stuff in the water, but there's a lot of behavior to see. Went out one afternoon and just photographed these wrasses mating, made the whole dive in about 8 to 12, let's say 3 to 4 meters of water, and took and went out to focus on trying to get these a shot of these mating wrasses. They move around a lot, but the point is there's a lot that goes on in those seagrass beds. So when you get in, don't be in a hurry to get away from the seagrass beds. Explore them, enjoy them. Here's a green sea turtle that's feeding on the seagrass. I won't usually take a wide angle lens just because there's better opportunities for wide angle shooting elsewhere, but often do see turtles and some other big animals, some stingrays and so forth up in the seagrass. This is a fish called a snake blenny. It's not actually a blenny, it's a male. They get to be almost 2 feet long, just beautiful little fish up again in the seagrass beds. And the seagrass, depending on the tide, the seagrass beds slope out to, 3 to 5 meters. And then the bottom starts to kind of slide away, can be sheer in some places, but usually it's just kind of a gradual slope. And on those slopes, to be a good fish watcher or animal watcher, I should say, really, or photographer, the key is to go slow. When you think you're going slow, go slower. Stop, look around, and watch. Try to dive like the guides, neutrally buoyant and slow and looking, rather than trying to swim all over and cover a lot of ground. You won't see nearly as much. So on the slopes, there's a lot of animals that are out in the open, just like garden eels and this short-tailed pygmy pipe horse, just out in the open. But as a rule, on those slopes, whether they're muddy or sand slopes, the idea is to try to get below the animals that you see. If you come from above them, you'll kind of knock everything that you're kicking up and stirring up in the bottom onto your subjects or the animals you're trying to observe. So I try to work from the downhill and down current side of my subject. You can't always do it. Animals like garden eels feed by facing into the current. But the key is to go slow and to really have great buoyancy control and body control and minimize all this stuff with your hands and your feet that kicks up the bottom. So often I think that we believe that in dive briefings, when the dive guides are talking to us about our buoyancy, that they're talking to the person standing next to us, not us. But everybody has probably kicked up the bottom at some time. And you want to, again, go slow and try to inhale when you lift away from an animal, and then fin very gently, and then exhale to come down to your next subject, come down on the downhill side. Little bitty movements. When I see a subject like this sand diver on the slope, if I'm, say, 3 meters away, I think, okay, I'm going to try to get to be about a half a meter away to take the picture. But when I'm 3 or 4 meters away, I see the subject, I set my camera up for what I believe the proper settings will be for being a half meter away. And then I approach very slow and careful. That's what I would suggest that you do. And that you minimize your movements with your camera and your hands and your body when you're close to your subject. Once you take a picture, with digital cameras, there's a tendency to then push your camera out, and so you can see the picture on the back, and that'll spook your subject. So if you have to look or you want to look at your picture, I suggest taking your picture and then backing your face away from the camera rather than pushing the camera out towards the subject. On the slopes, look for structure anywhere. Structure attracts marine life, whether it's this robust ghost pipefish or a sea fan and a crinoid that's attracting ornate ghost pipefish. I'm not saying that those are the places to look. You might not want to photograph animals there. You might want to isolate them a little more so that your viewer gets a little better look. But go to places where you see structure, even if it's something as simple as kind of an unattractive crinoid. Go and take a look, and you'll often find animals like this crinoid clingfish. Seahorses around soft coral trees and halimeda. See structure, take a look, go slow. Even trash. We know there's trash in the ocean, unfortunately, but it can provide habitat for a lot of little animals. And if I see a bottle or just a piece of driftwood or whatever, I would suggest that you go slow, have a look, and might be surprised at what you see. At night, out on the slopes, we often see longfin or bigfin reef squid, and then down in the sand, buried in the sand, see stargazers. So named fish with both eyes on one side of their head, kind of on the top of their head, looking up at the heavens, hence the name stargazer. They just explode out of the bottom to capture unsuspecting prey that get too close. But great fish to see, and we generally see them on night dives. Because so many of these animals are unusual and we don't see them in so many other places where we dive, it's really a great idea to have a target or two in mind, that maybe some pictures you've seen in the books or the magazines, and have those images called search images in your head, so that when you're out, you're looking for an animal, you have an idea that you're looking for something this size or this size or this size. It'll help you find those animals in the various habitats. Like this short pouch pygmy pipe horse. Just happened to see some photographs of this in some of the reef identification books, the Reef Fish ID books by New World Publications, great references. And I just flip through these quite often at night, or during surface intervals, talk to the guides about what we might see, take a look at the books. And I had read about that little pipe horse eating amphipods, and knew an area where I'd seen a bunch of amphipods, went and took a look, and sure enough, I got lucky. You won't always do it, but I got lucky with one of these guys. Looks like he's smoking a cigarette or a cigar, but he's eating an amphipod. And that just came from listening to the guides, reading the books, going slow, looking, and having an idea in my mind of something that I might like to see. The same principle applies when you see animals like this frogfish. It's a little bit colorful. It stands out of it, even though it's a little bitty, they can be hard to see. It stands out in its surroundings, but quite often they kind of attract the whole crowd of divers. When that happens, I just let the crowd, and suggest that you let the crowd just kind of swim away and then hang with them. And these guys will often start behaving and fishing just within a matter of a minute or two. So just be patient. It's a real key to being a good fish watcher and photographer. Look, when you're trying to find these subjects, look for something that just looks a little bit different or a little bit out of place. You want to get low to the bottom, but not drag your equipment across the bottom. And you'll have a better chance of seeing animals like this blackfin snake eel. Usually we just see them poking their head out of the sand, and it's hard to see them if you're 3 or 4 meters up and look down. But if you get low to the bottom and look kind of across the flats, you'll see these snake eels, animals like this Napoleon snake eel and a reptilian and crocodile snake eel, a orange and black, juvenile orange and black dragonet. But again, down low, don't drag, go slow, have a search image in mind, and listen to those dive briefings. You'll have a much better chance of seeing these animals than if you're up high like I was here looking down. This little flatfish just doesn't stand out. But if you get low, you can get a much better photographic angle and shoot up against water if you kind of or against blue water if you shoot up the incline. One of my favorite animals to see on the slopes are these white-spotted puffers. They're often accompanied by a number of jacks. They're not the white-spotted puffers are not anything you think of as an unusual fish, but when they're feeding, they often attract a crowd. These little jacks are coming to try to get anything that the puffer uncovers but doesn't get, little fishes, crustaceans, worms, whatever. You'll also see these puffers just kind of, looks like they're sleeping in the middle of nowhere. And if you approach them slowly, when you see that, you'll almost always see them being cleaned. This is a blue streak cleaner wrasse. That's an adult. And here's a juvenile doing a little hygienist work inside the mouth of this pufferfish. Flamboyant cuttlefish, quite common. They're small and they're easy to pass up. But if you go slow and look, and then you stay with them once you find them, you'll often see them hunting, looking for little transparent shrimp and little fishes. So stay with them instead of just saying, oh, I saw that, swim to the next thing, I saw that, swim to the next thing. stay with the animals and watch them. And it's a great, great way to learn about the ocean. There's no better place to do it, I think, than Puerto Galera and the Philippines. This is a little flamboyant cuttlefish that just hatched. Those are eggs that have not yet hatched. And this little guy hatched. I saw the eggs in a coconut husk on the bottom, and just went and checked them every day, every other day, and happened to get lucky and got there just as one had hatched. When you change habitat to go from that soft sand or mud to rubble, where the bottom's a little more coarse, you change habitat, you get different inhabitants, different creatures. So animals like these shrimp gobies and their partner blind shrimp that share a burrow, that's where you'll find these animals. You won't find them in the muck as much as you'll find them in an area where there's a little bit more of a coarse bottom. So you know who to look for. The shrimp is nearly blind, and it uses the goby as kind of its lookout, and the shrimp maintains their shared burrow. Jawfish, this is a yellow-barred jawfish that has a mouthful of eggs that are about to hatch. You can see those little eyeballs. That's the male. He is known as a Mr. Mom, if you will. Those eggs will hatch very soon. So again, in the rubble, great place to see animals like this ribbon eel, sometimes called a blue ribbon eel, and you can see how they get their name. Just graceful, beautiful animals that you typically see them, if you're going to find them, you'll see them in a rubbly area where they live in a burrow. Don't want to overlook the reefs. Don't think of Puerto Galera as just muck, 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 or soft bottom areas. There's beautiful reefs, especially if you take a trip over to Verde Island. It's about a 45-minute to an hour boat ride, depending on the sea state, and just completely different habitat. Sheer walls, what you think of as a more stereotypical Indo-Pacific reef. Beautiful reef fishes, lionfish in the currents, just with big gatherings of anthias. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Great backgrounds with the sea fans to photograph your subjects. This long-nosed hawkfish, just some of the animals that you might see at Verde that you probably won't see in the mucky areas. These white-eyed moray eels. And goodness, anemone fish just everywhere. These are pink anemone fish. Often, if you look at the base of the anemone, you'll see the eggs of the anemone fish. And if you just stay and watch for a few minutes, you'll see the adults maintaining, keeping debris off their eggs and fanning them to help oxygenate them. So it's just knowing what to look for. Look at the base of the anemone, look very carefully, and if you see it, back up a little bit, and then watch, and you'll see these animals go about their lives. This is a saddleback anemone fish. You see them more in the sand. They'll take a coconut husk or piece of coral that's dead, drag it over to an anemone, lay their eggs, and use the stinging cells of the anemone to help and defend or protect their eggs. Peacock mantis shrimp. I can go on and on with the egg thing. This is a peacock mantis with eggs. You'll see them sometimes. I've seen them in both out at Verde Island and also in some of the reefs around Puerto Galera. For me, it's about behavior. And I think for so many divers, when we all first start, we're just wow, wow, wow. And after a while, we really want to learn, I think, about how those systems, ecosystems, who the players are and how they fit together and how kind of the whole process works. And there's so many behaviors to see, whether it's at cleaning stations, where this cleaner ass is cleaning a goatfish, or another cleaner shrimp ridding this eel of ectoparasites and dead tissue, fungi, and bacteria that grows on its skin. A ringtail cardinal fish. This is another of the Mr. Moms, I should say, sorry, mouthful of fertilized eggs. These are recently laid eggs. You can tell by the color. Over a period of about 5 to 7 days, the yolk gets used up, the young develop, and then they hatch. you see ringtail cardinal fish a lot, and you think, how do you find the right fish? How do you find the one that's got a mouthful of eggs? And the key is to look. So a lot of them look like this, most of them, and then you'll see a fish that looks like it's got a mouthful of too much food, or it's got the mumps. It's just got these big old cheeks, and that fish is likely to have eggs. That's a male. And this is that same fish. About 5 to 7 days later, you can see the eggs have changed color. The yolk's been used up and about to hatch. A orange banded pipefish, another of the Mr. Moms. You see pipefish a lot. If you learn to look, you'll see them down underneath the ledges and then under little coral heads and back in caves. And if you look carefully, at about 1 out of 10 of them, you'll see eggs attached to their belly. That's the male. I dived for years without seeing the eggs, and somebody pointed them out to me and then realized it's not uncommon. You just need to go slow and look and know a little bit about what to look for. I'd certainly suggest if you go to Puerto Galera that you go on a Mandarin Fish dive in the late afternoon, just before sunset, where Mandarin Fish emerge from their hiding places to feed and spawn and to mate. This is a male, just beautiful fish. If there's a more beautiful fish anywhere, I don't know what it is, but the males will come out and display. They'll try to ward off other competing males and encourage the female to rise off the reef, and they will eject sperm and eggs into the water. And then it's over. After 45 minutes or an hour, they go back into hiding. But every day, if we offer the Mandarin Fish dives, and you will want to make them if you have a chance. We see these schools of rolling across the bottom. These are lined catfish. And you can see the little barbels, the chemosensory organs that look like whiskers, makes these fish look a lot like these guys. And if you see these fish, these are juvenile convict blendings. You might swim right past them and pass them up and think, oh, line catfish. Pay attention. And these guys live in a burrow. They come out in the mornings. They swim as far as 50 meters away to feed. And then at night, they pour back into the burrow. That's the juvenile. You can see no little barbels or chin whiskers. And that's the adult cleaning the burrow. They maintain the burrow. The adults never leave. Maybe they feed on some of the juveniles. We're not really sure. But they can be, they clean the burrow. This is another one, just slightly different color. But they are very active in maintaining what is a pretty complex burrow. Last of the behaviors, this is a Lacy scorpion fish, just a beautiful fish. Saw that guy and this fish. This is a paddle flap scorpion fish. Saw it at the house reef at Puerto Galera one day, took this picture and thought, I'm going to go back the next day, but I don't know how I'll do better than this. And lo and behold, I got lucky and saw that paddle flap. I found the fish, was able to find it, to see it jump up off the bottom and capture a meal. And to me, this just is the story of Puerto Galera, that at first, everything is just so amazing. And then the more you watch, it becomes more amazing. It's just like peeling back the layers of an onion. Everything we learn about the ocean, there's more to see and then more to see and more to see. And I don't think there's any place in the world that's a better place to get that ocean education than at Puerto Galera. I hope you've enjoyed this and you've learned something about some of the different ecosystems there and how important it can be to understand what critters you might see in the different habitats and then go find them. And I hope that we'll see you in Puerto Galera before too long. In the meantime, stay safe, happy diving. Thanks again, everybody at ADEX for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Marty, for that note. Right, so we come to the end of the session, and I'd like to foremost say thank you so much to all the panelists that have shared beautiful images of underwater scene, which I think most of us love at the moment. And if given a choice, we would swim across the ocean to just go to Philippines and check out all of the wonderful things Senior, yes,
Soon.
very soon. So
Yes.
once again, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you.
And also thank you,
Thank
Mike,
you.
for this. Everybody who's watching, please do stay tuned for the final session of today, which is going to be hosted by our ADEX Ocean Ambassador from 2012 to 2013, titled Connecting the Ocean as a Mother and a Lawyer, Sarah Hishan. She is, of course, a human rights lawyer and also an ADEX ambassador and a lover of the ocean. Herewith, thank you so much, guys, and we
Thank
hope to
you.
see you real soon. Thank you.
See you, Ram.
Bye. Thank you. Cheers. See you, Mike, Nora, everyone. Bye bye. Have fun.